Hello everyone, my name is Million Belay. I'm the General Coordinator of the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. I'm also a panel member to APES Food. The title for my presentation is Adapting Agriculture to Change in Africa, the Path to Agroecology. African agriculture has a lot of challenges. Some of them are population explosion, land and forest degradation, decrease in biodiversity, cultural erosion, unplanned urbanization, and climate change. The question is, how can we address the challenges in agriculture? Is it through producing more food? As you will see, more of the policies in Africa, both regionally and nationally, are focused on answering this question. But we can ask also more complex questions. Is it to produce more food which is nutritious and healthy? Is it producing more food which is nutritious and healthy without affecting the biosphere? Or is it producing more nutritious, healthy, and culturally appropriate food without affecting the biosphere? Or is it producing more nutritious, healthy, culturally appropriate food without affecting the biosphere in a just way? I think the last question is the most complex and very, very important question to ask. And the bigger question is what kind of paradigm and what kind of narrative would help us to answer this question. There are basically two competing paradigms or narratives to answer the challenge for agriculture in Africa. One paradigm is called productivist, and the second is agroecological. The productivist paradigm focuses on producing more food, as its name indicates. It proposes using of agrochemicals. These are chemical fertilizers and pesticides, high-yielding varieties, irrigation, and sophisticated technologies, including genetic engineering, and these days also, for precision agriculture, drones, and training farmers new techniques, basically knowledge substitution. Farmers should learn new techniques, but does this learning include also their own knowledge, traditional ecological knowledge, or what we call indigenous knowledge? And this paradigm, the productivist paradigm, is supported by a lot of actors. These are some of the institutions or the actors which are pushing industrial agriculture into Africa. Philanthrocapitalists, the Gates and Warren Buffett, and a number of them. Development agents, including CIDAM, Dave Whitey, USAID, business, big business, local scientists and government, bureaucracy both at the national level and at the regional level. The industrial agriculture basically is based on the following narratives, specifically in Africa. It's priority to business to produce more and feed Africa. So, we are changing our laws, seed laws, land laws to accommodate business now because business is supposed to feed Africa. And the narrative says also farmers is part of the problem and should be replaced by patented hybrids. Our problem in Africa is of calories, so more calories is a solution. Land should be given to those who can make it productive, and this kind of narrative is leading to land grabbing, as you know. And knowledge comes from science only, not including indigenous knowledge. And it's possible to produce one-fits-all solution, and big policies, big decisions are made in capital cities all over the world, and there's no consultation with farmers, as you all know. So what is the result of this narrative? In other continents, also increasingly in Africa. I think the result of this narrative is one triple burden of malnutrition in terms of nutrition and health. Hunger is increasing, micronutrient deficiency is increasing even though a lot of food is produced, and obesity. For the first time in the history of the world, people eating a lot of food and growing to be obese are much more than people who are hungry. Non-communicable diseases, cardiovascular, respiratory, cancer, and diabetes. So the first problem is related to malnutrition, and the second is environmental sustainability. We are experiencing biodiversity loss, water pollution, soil degradation, climate change because of greenhouse gas emissions, unsustainable use of natural resources, and low resilience, and social inequities also. And in addition to that, there is a huge cultural erosion in the food system, neglect of cultural values. So what is the other narrative, and how do we know whether it works or not? The other competing narrative is called agroecology. Agroecology is basically action and change, both at the farm level and at the landscape level, that brings sustainability and resistance to all parts of the food system: ecological, economic, and social. And it has three pillars. The first is science, both social and environmental, and other sciences, as natural sciences. Agroecology is a practice, range of practice. I'll show you what we mean by that. And agroecology is a social justice movement, because the food system is not just as it is now. And agroecology is all three. It has to be all the three, otherwise it's not agroecology. These are some of the practices and also social practices: conservation tillage, natural nitrogen fixation, nature pest control, agroforestry, cover crop and mulching, rainwater harvesting, empowerment and stakeholder engagement. This is social, recycling of nutrients, biodiversity and ecosystem services, and socio-economic regulations. All these are practices in agroecology. Now I'll go to explaining the work of the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa and how we have tried to prove to ourselves, to the rest of the world, that agroecology can work in Africa. The Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, as you know, is the biggest civil society movement in Africa. It works in the 50 of the 55 African countries, and we have farmers, fisher folks, indigenous people, pastoralists, faith-based institutions, women networks, youth networks, consumer networks, civil society networks. It's a big network. You can find about AFSA on this website. So in 2013, we have asked our question: does agroecology work in Africa? So we started to collect cases, or decided to collect cases, to make an evidence-based and coherent case for agroecology as a sustainable long-term solution for farming in Africa. So we collected cases on agroecological practices, on land and soil, on pastoralism, and on seed sovereignty. You will find these cases on this website. We collected these cases from almost all over Africa. I mean, from Southern Africa, from Eastern Africa, from Western Africa. Again, you can find these cases on this website. These are a range of cases that you can find from our website. So I will go to and pick one or two of them and briefly explain what these cases are. The first of these cases is from Malawi. It's never-ending food in Malawi. A couple went to Malawi and discussed with the Malawian government on what kind of project that they can do, and they have talked with local women, and they could see that and the main staple food in Malawi was only maize, and maize is not nutritionally enough for the people, so there's a lot of malnutrition. To address that, they started to talk to Malawian women farmers, and they have identified over 600 food items, vegetables and animals. The diversity in animals was also very good. So they started a permaculture farm. And out of the 600 that they have identified, they planted 200 of them. And with the women who are involved in this project, then it's possible to increase productivity and improve nutrition. The second case comes from Kenya. It's on African leafy vegetables. Some organizations, some mediators like Pelham Kenya, they started to work on leafy vegetables, and some supermarkets started to have these leafy vegetables. This availability of markets encouraged farmers to produce more leafy vegetables, connecting farm and consumers. And because of this, the growth of leafy vegetables has increased. Some schools even have tried to integrate leafy vegetables into the school feeding program. Because of this, the growth of the leafy vegetables has boosted and productivity has increased. For nutrition and health has also increased, in addition to resilience. The other example is from Ethiopia. The system of rice intensification, which has been successful in Madagascar and in some African countries. The Institute for Sustainable Development in Ethiopia started practicing SRI, system of rice intensification, into SCI, which is system of crop intensification, which actually means that instead of broadcasting, they started to plant crops in a row, and this has boosted productivity quite a lot, showing that by just changing your management, you can increase productivity. You don't need chemicals that much. Another activity from the same institution is agroecology at a landscape level, which included rehabilitating hillsides, rehabilitating gullies, planting trees and grasses, and using this increased biomass, making compost. And they had experiments with farmers in 3 plots of land. The blue is check, the brown is compost, and the green is chemical fertilizer. So on one plot, nothing was added, either chemical or organic fertilizer. On another plot, they used soil under conservation activities, added compost to their soil. Or another, they used chemical fertilizer. And over 5 critical crops for Ethiopia, barley, duremute, maize, teff, and faba bean, you can see that compost have fared much better than chemical fertilizer, or without or not using any of these fertilizers. So it's possible to increase productivity, increase soil fertility without the use of chemicals. What we did was we did a meta-analysis of all these case studies that we have collected so far. So the key findings of all the cases across the board is high yields and productivity, substantial income increase for farmers, improved soil fertility, food culturally appropriate, increased crop diversity, which is lowering risk of disease and increasing resilience, and food production distribution under the control of farmers. Kind of ticking all of the questions that we have asked before. And finally, we have compared all the cases with Sustainable Development Goals. You know the 17 Sustainable Development Goals? Actually, a meta-analysis of the 50 case studies from 22 African countries shows the contribution of agroecology to the attainment of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As you can see from this table, agroecology addresses 12 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 2, it addresses very well zero hunger, so it really contributes to zero hunger. So the paradigm, which is agroecology, I would say that is a better paradigm for Africa, and that's what we're working on. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.